Hi, thank you for joining us. This is episode 18 of The Mindset. I'm Christopher Felder with Ukeru Systems, training architect. With us, we have a special guest, something that we haven't done in a long time. We're actually going to have an interview with our team member, Lana Ingram-Gore, who is based out of Texas, our only export from Texas that we have with us here. So thank you for joining us here this morning.
Glad to be here.
So if you have been trained by Lana, then you know that she typically has dark hair. So if you want to see how blonde her hair is right now and her updated bangs, you'll have to go to the video version of it for the extra special effects here.
That's true. That's true.
So let's take it back a bit because you've been with the team now, what, 4 years? You've been with
Yeah.
us, and then
Yeah.
you
October
were
1st made 4 years.
wow. Doesn't seem like it's been that long. Yep. And then you were certified as a Ukeru trainer when you worked at another organization for 3 years, right?
Yep.
Before you joined the team. So going back even before that, you've worked in the field with a variety of different types of individuals. When you first were told that you were going to be certified in Ukeru, like what were you told about it and what did you think it was at first?
So, whenever this came to the facility I was working at, we were currently using restraints.
Hmm.
And that honestly had been the only tool I had been given the entire time because I've been working in the mental health field, honestly, since 2001. And that was really the only thing I knew. So, of course, I was skeptical when they told us that they were going to be bringing on these blue blocking pads and that we were going to try to get away from using restraints. Honestly, I thought it was a load of crap, being honest. And I was, the first to say, this isn't going to work here. Not with the people that we're serving. They're too high risk. There's too many dangerous situations that we're being placed in. And I don't think these pads are going to work. Um, then, of course, I went through the training, and all it took was that first training, and my entire mindset changed. And I was lucky enough to be part of the implementation onto the campus that I was working on. And I got to actually see the difference. So my mindset from before I knew exactly what it was to after learning what it was uh, did a complete turnaround.
So let me ask you a little bit about the mindset piece because that's a perspective that I'm not able to have because when I first joined Grafton, we had a 15-minute supplemental training that wasn't even Ukeru. It was like some very basic stuff. So my skepticism from that, I got to use that in conjunction with Kim Sanders and Jim Gaynor to help develop Ukeru. But I never had that perspective of this already existed, and then I came through the training for the first time. So you said your mindset took a turn during that first training. What was it about the training?
I think it was really getting the understanding of how the brain works. I just remember the first time I sat through that training, after this second chapter, I remember sitting there at the desk and I was just like, wow. Honestly, that was the factor. It was just a wow factor. Things that I had never really considered before and thought about. And I think what really helped my mindset change was that how the curriculum is distributed, it's personal. So like you can relate to some of the things that we train about. And so putting myself into some of those examples as well, I think is really what kind of changed my mindset. But um, really, I think learning about how the brain works in a perspective that I had never thought about before, that's really what changed my mindset. Learning about how to work with people versus against people. Um, because when you're working in the mental health field, something that I think that it's just naturally ingrained in you is that there was such a wrong thinking of whenever you're working with people that have intellectual disabilities. And I think, I mean, a lot of that comes down to this. They didn't have the knowledge. They
Mm,
didn't know, exactly what was going on. So they were still treating these people as if they should know better, even though we know now that they really didn't.
hmm.
And and I'm not faulting, the people that have been working in the mental health field for long
Sure.
periods of time, but I think it was one of those like things that's just passed down. So whenever I first started working in it, of course, I was working with, people older than me, and basically my training from what it looked like whenever I initially started like the basic training and then they put you
Hmm.
into the field when I was working in the actual, working one on one with people, it's completely different because you have the staff that have been working there for so long. And like I said, I'm not trying to say that they're wrong, but the way that they tell you, oh, you have to work with this person this way and you have to work with this person that way,
Hmm.
I think it kind of gets instilled in you that almost like you have to treat people as if they had done something wrong when they didn't.
Hmm.
And the way that you talk to them and you interact with them was almost like they're machines rather than people. And I mean, and I'm guilty of, I've worked with people um in the past whenever I first started. I mean, I never treated anybody bad, but
Hmm.
I also didn't really speak up whenever I had saw other people treating people bad at first, and that's because I was new to it.
Hmm.
And then I think after I got comfortable and then I started speaking up, and then, some people didn't really like that. But I'm very thankful that Ukeru came to the campus that I was on because even though I still had that restraint based mindset, Ukeru really changed that for me. I think it's what really set it apart and completely got me on a whole new way of thinking, just because of the way it's delivered. And
Hmm.
then actually seeing it work, I mean, not just the blocking piece, but just the communication and the de-escalation and
Hmm.
really watching people, become more compassionate and try to figure out why is this person doing this? Let's stop this before it gets too escalated. Let's look for these triggers. And then watching the restraints go down and watching the relationships come up, um, also really reinforce that in my mind of, okay, this is
Hmm.
the good stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I would say that's pretty true, not just for, places I've seen, places I've worked, but also myself was, the old mindset was the impetus is on the person changing instead of I've got to be willing to do some change, right? Because people don't change on their own. Um, some degrees maybe, but there's so many things that complicate that. So that's one thing I do appreciate about what we promote and what we teach is, if you want to create change in another person, you've got to first be willing to change. And I think that that goes against the old school compliance base. You do this because that said so or else type of mentality, right? Which,
Absolutely.
so what was it like being a trainer of this now? So you were a trainer for 3 years. So you went from using it and seeing it and having a lot of mindset change. Did it, did anything change in you as far as when you started to teach it?
Um, I think just being able to deliver it, honestly, it felt like it was my favorite class to teach. Because I was already in the training department whenever this got, rolled out into the facility I was working at. But I think going from watching it to um I mean to training it, I don't know, it almost felt like an honor. I'm not trying to sound cheesy, but whenever it was time for me to teach this class, it was one of those things that was like, this is something I believe in. I've seen it work. I've lived this. I've done this, and I just want to share it with people. So
Hmm.
you could always, I feel like people could see the excitement whenever it was my turn to. to teach this. Just because, talking about the examples that I had whenever I was working in direct care myself, I think, and telling people, these are the types of people that you're going to be working with. But
Mhm.
now we can really dive into, let's try to figure out why they're doing what they're doing. And I don't know, it was just an excitement, just switching from watching it to training it. And I mean, just watching it, transpire throughout the campus. And
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. It was just really good.
So that now going a step further and training other people to be trainers and trying to convince places literally across the US, outside the country to think and do a different way. What has it been like being a learning engineer? Like what is that experience? Because you've been doing it now for 4 years.
Yes. So honestly, I feel like what we're doing is changing the world. I love going back to places that I trained, 4 years ago.
Hmm.
And, each year as I go back, I love being able to see the progress. I love whenever, I know that I delivered a product to someone into a facility or organization or company um, that has, been through one of my trainings,
Hmm.
that I love seeing the excitement when I go back a year later and they tell me, oh, we got to tell you about our restraint numbers. They're so far down. And, people are loving this.
Hmm.
And I just love being able to go back and reconnect with people. And it's just uplifting knowing that a training that I conducted and was able to give my own personal examples and really connect with people over, hey, I've worked in this field
Hmm.
and I know what you're thinking, before you go into this class. I was there too. So we can talk about that. We can relate on that.
Yep.
And but then delivering a training that, is so impactful for other people. Like I said, I feel like we're changing the world and it's for the better. I love the excitement I see from other people. Um, I love the feedback that I'm getting. So that in itself is rewarding. Just to be able to be a part of this team, to be able to go and train other people, in the United States, outside the United States, and really, change the mindsets of people, just being able to deliver this program.
Hmm. Now, what about outside of the training environment itself? Like just, you go to all these different states, you've been to another country training this, like what is that experience like, the travel? So I feel like people are always curious about like the travel aspects, what the job's like when it comes to the travel.
So it's not for everyone. I'm going to be honest. It is absolutely not for everyone. However, I can say after 4 years, I'm still not tired of it. I absolutely love the travel. I love going back to places I've already been because they feel familiar to me. But I
Hmm.
also love going to places that I've never been, doing the sightseeing and getting to see things that I probably would never otherwise be able to
Right.
see. So that's also a rewarding piece of it. People watching in the airport can be entertaining. And just seeing the different types of cultures that exist. I mean, just they vary in each state. So, I mean, you go into a different
Hmm.
state and you think, oh, okay, this kind of looks the same as, where I'm from, but then no, it's not. But but yeah, the travel is not for everyone. I can say that because everyone was trying to tell me that, but people back home, they were like, after you do this for like a year or two, you're going to get tired of driving to the airport. You're going to get tired of doing all that flying and all of that. And like I said, it's 4 years later and it still doesn't bother me.
Hmm.
Drive to the airport, I jam out with my music and then get on a flight. And I don't know. I truly enjoy the travel because I like seeing things, but it's also cool to go places that I am familiar with and see things that I didn't notice the other times that I was there, and getting to travel with you and with other people of the team. also is great because I mean you get to be with different personalities and
Hmm.
you become close with people because you're traveling with them and you're
Yep.
spending time with them um and so just getting to know people that I would probably have never ever met in my entire life um I think is rewarding as well, just seeing different lifestyles. But no, I
Hmm.
like the travel. It's it's great, and I could see where some people might get burnt out, but I like it. That's how I know it's for me.
So, what have been some of the your favorite things you've seen, places you've gone, things you've done over this past 4 years?
So, some of the most favorite places that I have gone to, I love going to Tennessee. Of course, with the team, that's no secret. Um, And I think what was really cool was finding the underground bowling alley that seemed like it was hidden.
Hmm.
There was also an underground karaoke bar. I, went into comedy improv shows, getting to go to places that were on diners, drive-ins, and dives, and all of that is there in Tennessee. That was cool. So, I like going there. Believe it or not, I like going to California. Some people think I'm crazy, but I love the San Francisco area. I love the
Hmm.
Los Angeles area. Just because you don't get bored. There is
Hmm.
so much to see and do. You can just look up, things to do near me, and then it's pages and pages and pages of stuff. So I still
Hmm.
feel like even though we've been there so many times and I have done so many things, I still feel like that checklist is small on things
Hmm.
that I can do there. Um, of course, getting to see some of the most prettiest places ever
Hmm.
when we go to Utah. And, when we like accidentally hike like 6 miles
Right. Right.
Mount Zion that time, seeing Mount Zion and um, going on those risky trails.
Hmm.
Um, but just being able to see just, the way that Mount Zion looks from the inside rather than just flying over it is beautiful. So I don't know. I think I can find value in every place that I travel. If I really, if I sat down and thought of, okay, this place, oh, I like to go here, and this place, I like to go there. Even when we
Hmm.
go to like small little towns, way out in the middle of nowhere,
Hmm.
there's always value to something. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, Tennessee, California, Utah, Alaska wasn't quite what I expected it to be, but I think maybe I just need to visit more parts of it and go when it's not their brown season, is what they were calling it, when everything was melted and just
Gotcha.
watery. So,
Gotcha. So, you mentioned traveling with members of the Ukeru team, delivering training and everything. How would you describe your experiences with the team? Right. So you're in direct care, you're being trained by trainers of where you work. Then you become a trainer. So you're certified by us as a trainer, but you're still where you've worked. But now you're with the people that trained you to be a trainer and everything. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the way I want to ask this because I feel like through my career in this field, every step has been like a new peek behind a new curtain. Being a direct care and then, going into the training realm, you get a peek behind a curtain of mechanics of how everything works that you didn't know of. Doing this now, I feel like you get an extra look behind a curtain. So, has there been any feelings or moments like that for you?
oh, absolutely. And honestly, I've worn many hats whenever I was working at the facility before I even joined here because I mean, I worked direct care. I also worked in administration. I worked in habilitation therapies, which is with the OT and PT people, and then of course into the training department. So every time I have gone into something new, I have learned something that's I feel is valuable
Mm-hmm.
to that's helped. It got me where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then joining the Ukeru team, yeah, I've been able to learn a lot of things, which to me, like the actual team part of it, um, getting to know everybody. And, and I think everybody that joins the team felt the same way when we first met people that were in like the videos. And it was like, oh, you're famous.
Hmm.
And they're like, no, I'm not.
Nope.
But but yeah, well, to me you are. And uh but I don't know. I think joining the team and getting to be on this side of it, I got to learn even more things that I was unaware of. And I think one of the most valuable things to me is seeing how different organizations run,
Hmm.
because you can have so many different organizations that basically deliver the same type of care for someone,
Right.
but they are ran so differently.
Hmm.
And trying to, learn all of the different protocols and rules and all of that these different places use that are, completely vary from anything that I'd ever been trained for, for my entire life, is interesting.
Hmm.
And I'm getting better at like hiding my face, facial expressions when some people say some stuff, because in the past I'd be like, "Whoo, you did what?" That's how
Hmm.
your facility runs. Okay. But I've gained a better understanding of not everywhere is the same.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, getting to work with the actual team, I think, has been great. Of course, not everybody's personality is going to clash perfectly with everyone
Hmm.
else's, but I think that also kind of gives us like charisma. I mean, we're not all the same,
Yeah.
um, and I think that's great.
So, kind of taking this into a new realm. So, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. Somehow, with as much training as you do, while having children who are involved in many things, you also managed to start a support group.
I did.
How did you find time for
Um, I still don't know. Still trying to
that?
figure out how I found the time for that. Um, but yes, so we just celebrated our 1 year anniversary of meeting. Um, so of course the support group that I started is called I
Hmm.
Will Sit With You in the Dark. It is for anyone struggling with any types of traumas. So PTSD, depression, anxiety. We meet every single Sunday at 4 o'clock. And sometimes, the meetings, we only have about 6 people there. Sometimes we have a full room. So I think depending on people's schedules and what's going on too,
Hmm.
can vary with that. Um, but it has been very successful. I was, nervous about starting it because honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to help people. And I I honestly I have to give credit to Ukeru for me even wanting to help people further. Just because it really, really has changed my mind on how to treat people, how to accept people where they're at. And of course, my board knows that. Everybody knows that.
Hmm.
That I have to give a lot of credit to Ukeru as far as like where my mindset was. Like, okay, I've got to help more people. Um, but when we have these meetings, we come in, we light a candle, we do some greetings, we go over some basic rules, and then it's an open floor for shares. So people are allowed to, take turns and share their experiences.
Hmm.
And you don't have to, though. So when we do the open floor, you can talk about, just something that bothered you in the past week, or you can talk about a trauma that you've been experiencing since when you were a childhood. And what we have found is that so many people that have come and actually opened up, they're able to connect with other people, because you don't have to say anything during our support group. If you want to, you can just sit in
Hmm.
silence, and that's the purpose of it. I will sit with you in your dark, whether you want to speak or whether you want to just sit there and be quiet.
Hmm.
And it's just showing support for people and letting them know that they're not alone. And but a lot of people that had no intentions of ever saying anything at all, they just wanted to come and just feel supported.
Hmm.
After other people have shared their stories, what they've done is they've chimed in and been like, it is so good to know that someone else has experienced something similar to what I have experienced, or even felt some of the same feelings that I've felt, and now that I know that I'm not crazy.
Hmm.
Um, And so people have been able to really, bond and talk about that. And it's opened up the floors for lots of good discussions. And after we have our shares, then we go into a specific topic of the week where every week is something different. Like this past Sunday, the topic that I that I was talking about was how to help support someone when you yourself are hurting, because that can be really difficult, whenever you're going through hard times as
Hmm.
well. But then you have someone else that is also going through a hard time. They're looking to you for support.
Hmm.
Um, but we've talked about trauma bonding, we've talked about depression, anxiety. We go over tips and tricks on, whenever you feel an anxiety attack coming on, some things that you can do. And then other people have chimed in of, when I feel my anxiety going high, this is what's helped me. And
Hmm.
so it's just been real helpful. And then we also do self-care exercises um, every week. So one of the things that we talk about is, and it really puts it in perspective for people when they realize that they haven't done anything for themselves.
Hmm.
Because I ask everybody, I want you to think about just this last week, just in the last 7 days, what is something you have done for you?
Hmm.
And I want you to tell me something that you have done specifically for you, not that you've done for someone else, but something you have done for yourself. And a lot of people, they'll sit there and be like, "Hmm, I haven't done anything for myself." And then, and I let them know that, hey, taking a hot shower longer than you expected, that's still self-care.
Hmm.
Sitting in your car, listening to the music, blocking out the world, turning off your cell phone for a little while. All of that is self-care. I've printed several sheets of different examples of self-care, reading a
Hmm.
book, taking a walk, things like that. So then what I challenge them to do is in this next 7 days, in this next week, I want you to set a goal and tell me something that you want to do for yourself in the next 7 days.
Hmm.
It can be small, it can be huge, whatever you want it to be, but I want you to set a goal and I want you to try to meet that goal. I'm not asking you to do something every single day. I'm just
Hmm.
asking you one time during this next 7 days to take
Hmm.
some time for you, just to,
Hmm.
have your own self care. So,
And do you find that people are doing that or no?
yes, it's actually been very helpful. I've been getting great feedback on it
Hmm.
too. When people come back the following week, they're excited to say, I can't wait till my self care. I get to tell you, and I did something for myself. And,
Hmm.
just seeing some light come on in people's eyes that whenever they first started attending these meetings was so dim. Um, we have so many testimonies from people that, you know, come to us and they say, I love coming to these meetings. Some tell me that their self care is those meetings,
Hmm.
um, that they are gaining so much that they feel like their voice is being heard and that they're not being judged. And
Hmm.
so just being able to support people in their times of need. And I think since we've now been going on a year and sometimes the meetings, sometimes they're large, sometimes they're not so much, but I think the more and more people realize that, hey, this is actually going on. This is something that
Hmm.
I could benefit from because I mean, we've even been extending out invitations to not just people that are struggling, but we've even added if you are supporting someone who's struggling, if you
Hmm.
are, close with someone who is dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, dealing with some type of trauma, and they don't want to come to the meeting, you can still come to the meeting because we can help give you,
Hmm.
tips and tricks on how to help support other people too.
Well, I was just thinking the piece you said about how to help someone else who's struggling. I think that's an important piece that people don't dive enough into because I think, some people are like, oh, I shouldn't say anything, or some are like, no, I should go in and fix things. And I mean, mental health challenges can vary so much from person to person. I mean, whether it's talking about our field or whether it's just talking about society, right? I mean, and I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's that? mental health challenges are rising, or do you think it's more of we pay attention more now as a whole?
I think the mental health challenges have always been there. I think that now we're just more aware of it
Mm-hmm.
because it's becoming more common to talk about it, where in the past you were shamed for it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's one of the things that, we really talk about is that if you're feeling sick, like physically,
Mm-hmm.
like when you feel like you're getting the flu or you're feeling like you have a cold or something, you're not ashamed to go to the doctor for
Mm-hmm.
that, right? But when your mental health is suffering, you shouldn't be ashamed to seek out help for that either.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't think that we have more mental health challenges now than we did in the past. I think now it's more open to talk about. There's
Mm-hmm.
still, there's still a stigma around, you can tell some people they get almost ashamed to talk about their mental health or
Mm-hmm.
um, not even ashamed sometimes are just afraid
Mm-hmm.
to talk about their mental health because they don't want to come off as someone that is unstable and
Yeah.
um and I think we really need to just open that door some more and and really bring awareness that it doesn't mean you're unstable, it just means you're human,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're having thoughts and these thoughts need to be discussed. If these are thoughts that you feel like you need to talk with someone about, do it. And there's so many people that are struggling in silence, and I think a lot of that comes back to a mindset of honestly how they were raised and the different generations in the past of you know if you're feeling if you're talking crazy or you're thinking crazy, don't you tell anybody about that,
Mm-hmm.
and um so I think the challenge is still trying to break that mold
Mm-hmm.
of getting people comfortable about talking about their own mental health. Because I mean, I even had to do that myself, and I think opening the doors for this support group has even really made me step back and look at my own mental health and get a different perspective on it. And now I even do things that I feel like, okay, if this isn't good for my mental health, I'm going to set a boundary. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to do this thing or that thing or even be around this certain person
Yep.
if I feel like they're not good for my mental health. And I have noticed like just this uplifting feeling in my own
Mm-hmm.
self, um, being able to recognize my own mental health. And so I want to share that with others. I want others to be able to see, hey, you can set boundaries, you can set healthy boundaries. You can love people from a distance. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to, deal with certain things. And um, but yeah, I think the door is cracked open for the mental health awareness.
Mm-hmm.
First it was the window. I think the window is completely open. I think the door is cracked, but I think we still need to work on finishing opening that door.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think we see that very prominent in the work that we do, teaching places, Ukeru, because there's still a lot of mindsets of, well, these kids or these adults, they just need discipline,
Yeah,
right? They just need discipline. You know, my parents, if I would have acted out like that, I would have got smacked or spanked, and that's what they need. Like there's this miracle magic pill or magic bullet, however you want to view it, like punishment that would just stop all this craziness. And I don't think, well, forget, I don't think, I know that people just don't realize everyone has a different experience.
absolutely. And honestly, if that truly worked, then we wouldn't have all the issues we're having now.
Hmm.
It would have been stopped a
100%.
long time ago.
Yep. What's the one quote, the quote from Patricia Wilcox that we have in the training? If negative consequences could change people, it would have already happened, right?
Absolutely.
It would have happened already. So,
And whenever people, and I have said this to people, whenever I've talked to them in person, when they were saying, I got whooped and I turned out okay.
Did you?
Did you? Did you really turn out okay? And I mean, I'm from the generation, yeah. I mean, when I was younger, I got some spankings and stuff.
Oh yeah, me too.
But yes, but even my own self, when I look back at the different types of disciplines I had, it was way more impactful for me when my parents sat down and talked to me
Hmm.
about what went wrong rather than just the anger and spanking me, sending me to my room. You think about what you did. Okay, I'm thinking about what I did. I know what I did. I don't have to think about it. Compared
Hmm.
to, hey, let's sit down and talk about this. Let's figure out why. Okay, what were you thinking? That to me was a lot more impactful than spankings. And like I said, and I mean, I've
Hmm.
experienced both,
Hmm.
and then when some people have that mentality of, well, I went through this same thing and it didn't bother me that much, or I turned out okay.
Hmm.
You know, I want to remind them that, well, this person isn't you.
Right.
Just because you experienced that and you handled it differently, this person may not.
Hmm. 100%. Right. Well, and I think also there's a, an overwhelmingly lack of understanding of the neurology of a lot of challenges people happen or have. Whether it's aggressive behavior being dealt with in a setting, or whether it's just depression, anxiety, etc. Right, with it. I mean, people and the information's out there. That's the thing. All the information is out there about this stuff, but again, people aren't even told about it half the time,
Right.
or it's not promoted like everything else is. And that's a big piece of the goal with the neurology of what we teach and how we teach with Ukeru is to fill in some of the blanks,
Yeah.
right? Because the reality is, if what we were have been doing traditionally worked, then it would have worked, right? We wouldn't be where we are now with a lot of things. So I think helping people, putting it out there that if this happens to the brain, these are some of the results of that.
Yeah. And I really love the piece that we train where we have the two different brain scans of,
Mm-hmm.
the person that's been abused compared to the person who hasn't. And I really love being able to look at people's faces when I remind them of, just because someone looks like they should know better,
Mm-hmm.
they may actually have all of this going on inside, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a switch, flips and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh my gosh, like that's so true, because even though some people look like they are holding it together or they should be fine,
Mm-hmm.
inside they may not be.
100%. Yep. 100%. Well, even in that and how expressive you are, there's a reason for that too. Cultural, family, everything else that goes into it. So 100%. So before we start heading towards the end of this here, just a little bit of get to know Lana Ingram-Gore for folks who maybe are going to be trained by you or have been trained by you. Because outside of traveling and training this often, trying to influence people, teach people different way, having your children, everything that they're involved in, doing a support group, you also have a very prominent hobby that you and your husband have in common.
Yes, so we are pretty avid cornhole players. Um, yes, in fact, we have a tournament tonight. So we play cornhole. Of course, I do it whenever I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
My husband does it most nights of the week.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good. He's like really, really good. He's a sponsored player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, honestly, I feel like sometimes, and I joke about it because I get so frustrated at myself when I don't do good when
Mm-hmm.
I play cornhole. And so I say cornhole is not good for my mental health. That's like one of the things that I say. Um, but honestly, the environment has honestly been so great because I have connected with so many people and made so many
Hmm.
great friends along the way. And it's so uplifting because the culture behind cornhole is that, like, if, whenever you first get started, you support each other and like you help each other, like, hold the bag like this or try to throw like this. And then
Hmm.
even people that you're playing against, um, it's become one of those natural things that, like, if they even, they score better than you, they beat you, it's still like, man, good bags. Like, oh, when someone does a good shot, oh, that was a great bag. And
Hmm.
so I don't know, it's sometimes I had considered like quitting it altogether at one time because I got so mad at myself, but I just can't stop. I'm just not even gonna lie. I can't. But yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun. So I play cornhole um with my husband. It's, I guess, how we bond. And then when we get teamed up with each other, depending on if we do good or we do bad, it's either a great car ride home or a silent one.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah.
All
I don't know
right.
when I sleep. I don't. I,
I don't know either.
yeah.
Which is wild because whenever we do the introductions for training, we're like, tell two interesting things about you. Tell them the one about caffeine if they haven't had you before.
I have not had any caffeine since 2008.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how many years is that? That's what, 10, 19.
Just 24. So yeah. That's 16.
Shoo, yeah, about 16 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Um, well, honestly, it wasn't by choice at first. But I was a really big Pepsi drinker. I used to
Hmm.
drink Pepsi a lot. Growing up, my family, it was Dr. Pepper. I mean, Texas Dr. Pepper, like South. That's, you drink that like they put it in your baby bottles. But I became a really big Pepsi fan, and then all of a sudden, in 2008, I had started getting headaches.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, maybe it's stress, something going on. And I'd gone to the doctor a few times and, tried different medicines. And then finally, my doctor was like, hey, let's talk about your diet. He's like, tell me about it. And I was like, I drink Pepsi and da, da, da. And he was like, well, let's try this. Let's go for a week and cut out all caffeine. And I was like, no, I don't
Mm.
want to do that. And he's like, just entertain me. Just let's go for a week and let's see if, that helps your headaches. And I
Mm.
was like, this is crazy because, they use caffeine in certain medications to help cure a headache. And so I was like, okay, I'll try it. So like that week, I was a terrible person because I was going through caffeine withdrawals, didn't have but I did not have any headaches.
Mm.
And so that following Sunday, I remember thinking, this is just ironic. I'm going to drink a Pepsi. And I drank a Pepsi and I started getting a headache.
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something to it. So I switched over to like the caffeine free Pepsi and the caffeine free Coke and stuff like that. And I would drink those and I would not get a headache. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe there was something to it. So I don't know if it would still do that now, but since I've been this long without it, I don't even want to test it. Like
Hey,
it
it's healthier that way.
absolutely, because I can't relate now when people are like, oh my gosh, I got to get my coffee in, and I got to wake up, I got to drink my coffee. And I'm like, okay, well, I've got my hot chocolate or I've got my water.
Hmm.
And that's
Wow.
all I need. So yeah,
All
no
right.
caffeine.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us here today.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here.
Yep. Um, Again, tell us one more time where we can find information about your support group you run.
Okay, so my support group, you can find information at www.iwillsitwithyou.com. We also have a Facebook and Instagram page. Just look for I Will Sit With You in the Dark. There's daily posts on the Facebook page. The website itself has information about where to meet, the format of the meeting, even the board members. So yeah, lots of places there to connect with us.
All right. Well, again, thank you, and thank you for tuning in. You can check out more through the information there about Lana and see her on the road soon.